Welcome to Town Hall. Thank you to those who came down in the pouring rain. I don't know when we're going to get past all this. I think the gardeners probably love it, right? So we're going to get started first with Lori Schaefer. Welcome her to the mic to introduce the new residents. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. We have a big group this time, so really excited. I'm here to announce the people who have moved in to both Heritage Village or Moravian Hall Square since February. So we're going to start off with Heritage Village. I have Joe and Fran Bartko. I did not see them. There is Fran. Yes, thank you. Oh, okay. Joe's not here. Well, welcome Fran here and Joe as well in thoughts. Fran and Joe moved into their home at 347 Constitution Circle on April the 1st, and they moved here all the way from Nazareth, as I always like to say. You're going to hear that corny joke a couple of times today. Charlie and Georgette Danello, are they here? I do not see them. Okay. Charlie and Georgette, they moved into here Moravian Hall Square, apartment 333 on March the 20th, and they too moved here from Nazareth. Pat Pappas, is Pat here? Pat, there she is in the back. Pat moved into her home, apartment 111, with her kitty cat on March the 25th, and she moved here from Bethlehem. John and Betty Holdis is next. John and Betty are there also in the back. They moved into their apartment 402 on March the 27th, and they moved here from Easton. Fran Eckert, I know Fran is here. Fran Eckert moved into her home, apartment 423 on April the 3rd, and she moved here from Penargil. Steve and Noelle Lammers, they're here as well. Steve and Noelle, if you want to stand up, thank you. They moved into their home, apartment 422 on April the 15th. They moved from Easton. Joan Sayer, is Joan here? I did not see her. No, Joan's not here. Okay, she moved into her home, apartment 225 on April the 22nd, and she moved here from the Saylorsburg area. Rhonda Stark, Rhonda's here. Rhonda, want to stand up? Rhonda moved into her home, apartment 326 on April the 30th. And Rhonda's husband, Warren, he also resides in our nursing care area. They both moved here from the Nazareth area. And last but certainly not least is our Bruce Setzer right here in front of me. Bruce moved into his home, apartment 411 on May the 7th. And he too, all the way from Nazareth. So we hope you'll take this time and over the next course of a few weeks, get to know these residents, take some effort, and welcome them to their new home. So thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Next up, we have Susan Capobianco to give us some updates.
Thank you, Michelle. And good afternoon, everyone. Okay, I wanted to take this opportunity to give you an operations update. We're almost one half of our fiscal year into 2025. Can you believe it? So it's always a good time to give you some information about how we're doing financially. And of course, I divided this. Oh, I like it better that way. No, that's it. Thank you, Michael. I divided this program or presentation really into three separate sections. One is an operations update. The next section is really going to be an affiliation update. And then finally, just to review some recent and upcoming events. First of all, to remind all of you, our formula for success in a life plan community really is based on high occupancy in all styles of living, managing expenses by the department leads that have budgets for their departments, and then making strategic campus improvements. And that's because we have to continually reinvent spaces here on both of our campuses in order to continue to be able to attract new residents for decades to come. So as of today, or this week, our residential living census at Moravian Hall Square and our apartments, townhomes, and cottages on this campus is at about 115 out of 130 units for 88%. We already have scheduled move-ins that are going to occur between now and August, and that will bring our census to 126 out of 130. However, there will likely be additional transitions that occur between now and August, so that could impact, of course, the percentage of our census. In personal care, we really got off to a slow start this year in January, and that was from a number of transitions that occurred, especially in Morningstar Hall. Bethany is 28 of 33, and that's by design because of the Bethany renovations that are going on. Morningstar Hall, we're now back to 26 out of 28, but again, we were pretty low in January, February, and even in March. And Galilee House has been full at 100% with a waiting list. So overall, average personal care census is 92%. Bethany House renovations, I believe Matt is going to cover this, correct, Matt? So this is just a floor plan to show you the differences between what we were and what we transitioned to and the phases of construction that Matt will review with you. Nursing care census has been extremely strong, 55 of 59 of accommodations for a census of 93%. And of course, census in the nursing home is also impacted by the renovations in Bethany House. I know Matt explained that to us a couple of times, how we have to take some of those accommodations offline in order to prepare for Bethany House renovations. But we're doing a really good job of managing and maximizing the census there. All of this means in that basically our net resident revenue is a little over $600,000 above budget, which we planned for at this point in the year. And when you compare that to last year, which was a very good year, we were $397,000 over budget for the same period in time. So we're actually running further ahead of budget in 2025, which is a very good financial sign. Residential living at Heritage Village is really coming to a full census as of December of 2025. We have all of our accommodations filled for the most part in phases 1 through 5, and we're about 53% occupied in phase 6. But again, before December ends in 2025, our phase 6 will be completely occupied. We had 2 significant surveys or studies that are done annually. They are unannounced surveys that take place at the state level. So in nursing care on April 1st, on April Fool's Day, as a matter of fact, we had the Department of Health come in and do a several-day assessment and survey of our nursing home. And then on May 7th, we had the Department of Human Services, which is the regulatory agency that oversees all of the personal care homes in the state of Pennsylvania, come in and do our survey of personal care. For both levels of care, we had very, very minor deficiencies. They do try very hard to find something wrong with us when they come here over the course of several days. And I think one of our deficiencies was we didn't have a label on our whipped cream that was in one of our refrigerators. We got high marks on staffing in both personal care and nursing care. And we also got high marks on resident care and services. And that stems from interviews that these agency workers actually conduct with the residents who live in nursing care and personal care. I just wanted to remind you, although I don't think I have to, that we changed our calendar format. That was a heated discussion, probably all of January, February, March, until in April when we launched the new Hall Circular. We retired the Hall Circular name, redesigned the format of the weekly newsletter for residents, calling it the Weekly Wrap. So that quickly took over all of the conversation about changes that we're making. So we are looking for your feedback. I think Michelle communicated over and over, and so did Doreen, that we are happy to make changes going forward to accommodate, the large majority of residents that prefer one style or another. But I know that we've received a lot of favorable input on the calendar and on the weekly wrap. But again, we're open to changes. I'm often asked what are the major challenges that we face in our operation, and of course, staffing remains our number one, and I don't know that that's going to change anytime soon. We have a workforce shortage in the country, throughout the world, quite frankly, and especially as it relates to healthcare organizations. So staffing is always going to be one of our number one focuses, because any time that we have to supplement staffing with agency staffing, we are causing this organization a lot of expense and sacrificing quality care, which we do not want to do. So we have had a major effort underway in nursing care and personal care to reduce agency workers, not because they're not professional or they're not good workers. It's just that they don't know our residents, they don't know our policies, they don't know our procedures, and it's hard on our existing team members when they're working in nursing care or personal care, because our existing team members have to take time out of their schedule to help an agency professional know what care to provide and what resident preferences are. Our number two challenge is really a term that Chris Hunt created that I love, called expense stability. And this comes to how well we are stewards of the money that we're using in the operation. So every department head here prepares a budget. The budget goes through a rigorous process. Chris Hunt tries to, get the budget in order every year for the Unitas board to approve. And then basically we have to manage that budget as department heads. So the degree to which we do a good job of that certainly impacts that net resident revenue that I shared on the screen previously. That boils down to census, which is how we generate revenue, and then expenses and how well we are at managing expenses. And then the number three challenge that has really become a trend or a pattern here comes down to healthcare planning. And I just want to remind you that I believe one of the first combined town hall meetings that we held, we talked about no room at the inn. I don't know if any of you remember that presentation. It was, is there going to be an accommodation for me in nursing care or personal care when I need it? And the answer to that was, it all comes down to how good you are at communicating with our wellness office. Michelle's department is here to help residents, resident spouses plan and prepare for their future healthcare needs. So if there's a change in your healthcare, it would behoove you to meet with Michelle and her team to prepare for maybe not an urgent transition, because obviously that would be an emergency situation that none of us can really predict, but something in the horizon that she can help you prepare, and it comes down to communication and planning. And the reason why I say this is a challenge, because more and more we're dealing with crisis situations because residents are not sharing their health care needs with Michelle's office. So we really want to make great efforts to prepare for that. We can help you better age in place where you are if you bring us into the process early. And now an update on the affiliation. I think you all remember that we're under the umbrella Unitas Communities. And in January, I believe it was, David Swartley gave an update on the approved marathon goals. Now, I know it's hard to read these goals sideways, but I do want to point out that you should have by now received your publication of the Heritage that was recently sent out to all residents. And in this publication, we have a 2-page article that details each of these 5 marathon goals. So these were the goals that the Unitas Communities Board approved, and then most recently last week on May 8th, and the reason why we didn't have the town hall meeting that day was because we actually had to travel to Lancaster County and meet with the board of directors and share with them our progress on these goals. And we've already made significant strides in achieving some of the strategies that the board approved. So I'm going to cover some recent events now because Michelle's giving me the signal that she's going to pull me off here soon. Basically, we had a Take Your Child to Work Day. And I know many of you were involved on this on Thursday, April 24th, because whether you were helping the children of our team members learn how to play bocce ball or pickleball, or making ice cream with Chef Matt, or cardio drumming with Michelle, it was a full day packed with all kinds of opportunities, even an escape room at the end of the day for the students who participated. And it was really, truly a great day. There was job shadowing so that the employees' children could actually be with them and see what their parents' job is like. And we opened that up to also grandparents who work here and want to bring their grandchildren to participate. Then we had a beautiful service on Sunday, April 27th, where we remembered 27 of our family members, our residents who passed away during the period October 2024 through March 2025. And that was a beautiful service that Tracy facilitated for us, as well as Molly Santee. We had our volunteer recognition and celebration on Tuesday, May 13th. We had over 100 people participate in that beautiful luncheon, and that was a great celebration. But my personal favorite of all the events that we do is really our Morning Stars Awards ceremony. This is the time where we nominate and select individuals in every department at Morning Star Living to receive an award, a recognition of their outstanding performance. And part of this year, what we did was we created a whole week of employee appreciation. So every day we were taking treats, ice cream, pretzels. That was Lori Schaefer's requirement. Just kidding. But we actually went to every employee throughout the organization every single day with some kind of a treat or word of thanks. And we included a tree that is in the lobby of Moravian Hall Square. So if you haven't seen it, you should go out to the reception area and look at it. It's a gratitude tree. And basically, it has a ton of different individual leaves where employees were asked to write what they're grateful for. And I would like to acknowledge Steve Moyer. Under his direction and supervision, our wood shop here at Morning Star Living is responsible for building, crafting, creating this beautiful piece of artwork. So thank you, Steve. And then I think you know that in addition to our own employee awards, which I'll review in a minute, we take the opportunity every year at Morning Star Living to lift individuals up to the state level. We're part of an organization called the Leading Age PA, which is an association, a member association that many life plan communities, as well as other senior service communities or organizations, are part of. There's a national leading age and there's a state leading age, and we nominate individuals for various types of awards. I think you might remember that last year we nominated Charles Hildenbrandt as Caregiver of the Year. And out of 165,000 caregivers in the state of Pennsylvania, Charles was selected as Caregiver of the Year. And we're still celebrating him. He thinks we're going to take the posters down and all the other things. I said, no, we're leaving them up. We're going to keep celebrating you. But this year we nominated one of our volunteers. And this is an individual who since 2016 has dedicated over 5,000 500 hours of coming to Moravian Hall Square every day to work in our health and wellness center, serving residents, transporting residents, wearing costumes to entertain residents. And we nominated Tyler Yunkin, and he was selected as volunteer for the state of Pennsylvania. And on June 11th, we're going to be going to Hershey. We're taking Tyler to Hershey with us, and he's going to be acknowledged in front of the conference of all of the member organizations of Leading Age PA. So we're really excited about that. These are the 9 categories that we actually select one or more individual team members to be a recipient of. So we have a definition of each of these awards. We send out nomination requests months and months in advance of the awards program, and we get dozens and dozens of nominations for each of these awards. And then there's an awards committee that gets together and vets every nomination and makes some decision about who's going to be the recipient. But one of the new awards that we created last year was an award really to recognize and applaud the talent, skills, determination, drive, and discipline of a leader. And I'd like you to applaud Matt Matejcek, who was named this year Leader of the Year. Because when David and I presented this award at the awards ceremony, we mentioned that caring is really the essence of leadership when it comes right down to it. And there's really nobody that I know that cares more about this organization or you and me than Matt Matejcek. And then just to give you a preview of some upcoming events, we have the rescheduled date for the Golf Classic. And boy, Molly, am I glad we didn't have it yesterday or today, right? So our rescheduled date is Wednesday, May 28th. This is really part of Molly's strategy to name a date early in May, knowing that it's going to get canceled for a rain date. And then we have the Rockathon, which I think Molly's going to actually talk about, that's coming up on Thursday, June 19th. And then we are going to celebrate 5 years of the Morning Star Memory Cafe that takes place at the Advent Church in Bethlehem 2 times each month. It's hard to believe, but we actually planned, launched, and opened the Memory Cafe during COVID. And it's been going strong and growing ever since. So thank you, Michelle.
Okay, thank you to Sue. Because there's been such a great influx of new residents, I thought I'd take a few minutes just to review some of the committees that we have available to see if there's any interest to have some new members join. It's all all these details are listed in your resident service guide, which you can find either in paper form in the library. You can also find one in the wellness office, and all of this information is on the app. So if there's anybody that has any interest and wants to contact someone to learn more about a committee or to join, please just give us a ring in the wellness office. We can help you get in touch with the right person. The first committee is Arts and Decorating, and they take care of organizing our inventory and keeping our hallways looking beautiful, and they change out seasonal decorations. So Nan Laberto and Marianne Prestfilippo are the chair and co-chair for the Arts and Decorating Committee. Buildings and Grounds, they promote safe building, safe buildings and keep the campus looking beautiful. They work with administration to relay any concerns of their fellow residents. And Dan Charney and Dave Klein are the two contacts for that committee. Channel 199, you know that they work in the little room right next to the wellness office. There's equipment in there that you can be trained on if you're interested in helping out. They provide service for recording events in chapel here in Quartz Hall to be replayed on channel 199. So you can learn more about that from Jerry Weiss if you're interested. The Culinary Committee meets monthly, and they review some of the comment cards. They bring any concerns to the committee from their fellow neighbors, and they do have some input as to the different menus and the changes that they try to keep fresh throughout the different seasons. Susan Conley, Gretchen Reed are your contacts for that. The Finance Committee, they work with administration, also bringing concerns of importance from the residents, and discuss fiscal reports and learn more about things that are going on that affect the residents. So Taylor Ernst and Tom Meese would be your contact if you were interested in that. Community Fund and Engagement Planning Committee, they bring ideas for activities and programs and entertainment, and they discuss that with CFE to work with them to, bring new ideas to light. They suggest trips. Marianne Prestafilippo and Peg Hunt lead that committee. Our garden committee works to beautify the campus, propagating, germinating. They work out of the greenhouse, and Steve Moyer and Susan Conley lead that group. They do some weeding, deadheading. The campus always looks beautiful, so that takes a lot of work. And they're the ones that are thankful for this rain. I'm gonna blame it on them. The greeting committee comes together to plan warm welcomes for our new residents. They recruit hosts to bring the residents out to dinner, and during that dinner they tell them about all the different forms of communication and where to look for different things and resources that are available to them in the community. And Helen Roth and Joanne Reed lead that group. Our library committee does a lot of work to keep the library current and neat and organized and keep track of ins and outs of books and newspaper subscriptions. There's tons of work to be done down there. We thank Jackie Ellenberger and Barb Bauer for leading that group. And the Needlework Club meets every Wednesday from 1 to 2 in the activity room. They come together to share talent while knitting, and it was brought to my attention that it's largely a social time. Excuse me. If you're interested in learning more, you can call Jerry Diltz from Heritage Village. The Pool and Billiards Club meets as needed. They will train new members that are interested in pool. Audrey Maccabee and Tom Meese also organize competitions, which is fun. Excuse me. And the last committee is Woodshop. And I can tell you, I've been here about 6 years, and there were a lot of years where there was no activity. And they've given rebirth to interest in the woodshop and how they have really benefited the community by refurnishing some benches and making special projects for us and contributing to the arts and crafts shows. Tom Moyer and John Holdos would be your contact to learn more. And if you are interested, I just want to say this because I've done it. I'm interested. I haven't had time to participate, but if you talk to Ken Cade, he will give you an orientation for safety and give you just learn your way around the woodshop. And a lot of it, of course, is safety. And they base the orientation on what past experience you have. Are you coming in knowing your way around, or are you a novice like me? And they had to tell me what tools for what. And that's it for that. We're going to hear from Matt Matejcek now for an update.
If you want to join a fun committee, the Building and Grounds, we meet on the third Wednesday at 10 a.m. and they get coffee and donuts and pastries as a treat. It's bribery, really. So I just wanted to speak a little bit about the Bethany House renovation project. As you're all aware, this project began last September, and we are in the home stretch of the project. We are actually in phase 6, which is in the top right corner, and that's of the Hampton neighborhood. So we have 2 more phases after this, and then the project will be completed. So we're expecting that to be done around the end of August, middle of September, with punch list items and so forth. But next week, we are actually starting phase 7. We will be moving people back into their accommodations from that were in phase 6, and then transition the people in phase 7 to their temporary accommodations, which then we will start the following Monday, June 2nd. From there, it'll take approximately 5 weeks to do that phase, and then we would be in the last phase, which is phase 8, which are the bottom rooms. There's 6 of them, which are closer towards the nurses' station and the elevator of Hampton. And then we will do core area reconstruction, which would include removing the nurses' station when you get off the elevator and making it a seating area, and changing lighting, light fixtures, ceiling grids, paint, and then adding some new furnishings. So we're very excited. If you haven't been up on personal care in Bethany House, if you go to the Whitfield House, we just had the carpet installed last Wednesday and Thursday. And with all the new lighting, and it just looks so different, so bright, so spacious. So we're excited once this is over to furnish it and put paintings and artwork and such up and make it even more special. So as I said, we're in the phase 6 currently, which is affecting those 4 rooms. We finished, or are in the process of finishing, the Whitfield corridor. Phase 7 will start June 2nd and then July 3rd, right before the holiday, and then they'll start the last phase July 5th, or 6th, I guess it would be. So Mike is going to provide an update for Heritage Village.
Okay, thank you. So Sue already touched base on my first topic, which was just a brief update on phase 6. Freedom Neighborhood. We have 3 move-ins happening in June, and then the last final 9 will be happening throughout the fall of this year. So by the end of 2025, all of phase 6 will be fully built and occupied. So that's going to be a big piece for us. I mean, and once all the construction workers and vehicles are out of there, I'm just really excited to see what it looks like overall. It's going to have a completely different feel, that feel of completion. So we're really excited for that. And that last bullet point of Freedom Green, that's the last piece of the puzzle up there of getting all those final pieces and touches in. That would be the only thing that could trickle into 2026, if anything. So the goal is to try to finish up by the end of this year. That's what we're pushing for. But like I said, the green would be the last piece of the puzzle up there that could, go into the following year. The Cooper Center pool opening. So right now the pool is slated to open up for classes on June 2nd. So that's what was advertised for all the classes that'll start. However, we are saying as of today that the pool will be open tomorrow for anyone who's interested and brave enough. So just to give you a quick synopsis of what we have to do, we open up the pool in the beginning of May. That gives us enough time to find out if there's any problems with the equipment and then get the pool water balanced to where it needs to be for it to be utilized. So this year the pool was open, and this was the first year that we actually had some significant damage to some of the plumbing and some of the pressure valves on the system. So the very first 2 weeks that the pool was open, the pool was not operating. There was cracks in a couple of the lines that are feeding the water going through the circulation sand filter and the chlorinator pump. So the pool water was kind of sitting there, and we were kind of stirring it up with a temporary system. So if anybody was over there and saw this water chute going into the pool, well, we put that in place just to keep the water churning so that it didn't just become stale, stagnant water. As of Saturday, the company that we utilized came out, resolved all of the plumbing issues. We have it running, and Doreen and Thurman got the pool water up and ready and balanced where it's supposed to go. That could take up to typically a week to 2 weeks, and they got it in the week. The question that came out about opening it for Memorial Day, we are able to do that. And so we're saying as of tomorrow, if anybody wants to use it, like I said, I doubt anybody will be. The temperatures are not working in anybody's advantage. Now, in the pool, it's 84 degrees right now, somewhere in that range. So, I mean, just don't get out of the pool, I guess. So good news with the pool. I wanted to just briefly, I'm not going to go into any detail with this, but Basin A, the final clean out and conversion, so that is the basin, stormwater management basin that is directly behind phase 3. That is still slated to get the final clean out conversion sometime this summer. So they do need it to kind of be in a dried out state as much as possible. There will have to be work done most likely to get it to that point if we just keep having rain or tributary springs that just keep adding water into that area. But there will be more to come once it gets to that point, but that will be happening yet this summer. And one more piece to touch on that is something that we decided to do this year. It came out through multiple different conversations. It came out from a safety aspect. So right now, the way the walking trail works is that anybody who's migrating and wanting to get to the Cooper Center from phases 4, 3, 5, 6, you have to follow the sidewalk that would go down Unity Drive and the pathway that would migrate through the back of Heritage along the tributary waterway, coming back and around and coming back up like a big horseshoe to come back up to the Cooper Center. So we are in the process of extending the walking trail so you don't have to go south. You can go across West Bile, but behind the barrier that borders West Bile and our property. So we would effectively connect the current walking trail that's there now in phase 4. It would come across the water tributary over onto Unity Drive and back onto the sidewalks to get over to the Cooper Center, and that is going to avoid anyone from walking on West Bile Avenue. So for anybody who goes on West Bile Avenue / 22 extension, nobody's going to potentially get hit anymore. So we've seen a lot of individuals utilize that area. Won't name names. I already see people pointing at one another. But that will be a very good feature. But there's a long process to do. We had to do a bog turtle study. There are no bog turtles in that area, so it allowed us to continue moving forward. So we have a lot of paperwork and things that we have to go through, and so we should have that shortly, and then the goal is to have that done yet this year as well. So, okay, so that's my update for over there.
Next up, we have Kara Hildenbrand to talk about our survey process that's coming. Is Kara here? No? I can just let you know that you have probably received a survey for residential living either in a paper form in your mailbox over here on this campus, or in your email for Heritage Village. So we're just collecting them. You can answer electronically if you receive the email, or if you've received the paper copy, we have a collection box in front of the wellness office. So we're curious to see the results of that, and I'm sure they'll be presented once they're all the data's analyzed. And next up then I have Carol to talk about volunteerism.
Good afternoon. My name is Carol McCandless, and I am very pleased to be the volunteer coordinator here at Morningstar Living. I've been lucky enough to be involved with volunteers in various capacities for my entire career. Some of you may have heard me say, as I say it often, there are so many things in the world that would never happen without volunteers. This is true. There are many things that would not happen in our local community without volunteers, and here at Morningstar Living as well, if there were not volunteers. I have a few examples of the impact that our Morningstar Living volunteers make in our communities. Some of you may know that I worked at the YMCA here in Nazareth for many years. Each year, the Y organized a 5K run on Thanksgiving morning. The event was designed to raise money to provide sponsorships to children whose parents could not otherwise afford after-school care. This run attracted about 1,000 runners annually, but the most remarkable thing about this event was that it was organized and pulled off by a few YMCA staff and over 90 volunteers. These 90 volunteers stuffed race packets. They helped race day registrants. More than 50 of them stood on every street corner along the race route, rain or shine, making sure participants were safe and that not too many children were left behind. This event raised tens of thousands of dollars annually to allow 100 children to receive free or reduced after-school childcare each year. A huge event for the children of their community, their families, and entirely because of a group of volunteers. This is an example of the impact volunteers can make. And I also actually honestly picked this particular example because so many of those volunteers are residents here at Morningstar Living. Our volunteers are in other activities in the community as well. They support the Memory Cafe, which is a twice monthly gathering in a safe and supportive environment, providing social engagement activities for individuals with memory loss. These particular Morningstar Living volunteers logged over 300 hours in 2024. The summer lunch program here in Nazareth makes brown bag lunches available every Monday through Friday, August for June. In the Nazareth School District, Morningstar Living staff and volunteers participate 1 week each summer in preparing the lunches, handing them out to the children each day at the Nazareth Moravian Church on West Center Street. Loaves and Fishes Soup Kitchen offers this opportunity to the Nazareth community through donations they receive. This program is entirely supported by volunteers. It would not be possible without them, and about 50 children are fed daily. That's the impact of volunteers. So now I'm going to bring it back to our Morningstar Living community. At this moment, we have 284 volunteers here at Morningstar Living, and I am receiving new applications every week. Our current 284 individuals have accumulated over 113,000 volunteer hours. Our volunteers assist with activities and special events. They're gardeners, woodworkers, beekeepers. They refresh residents' waters and transport them to activities, special events in the salon. They are chapel helpers. They staff our gift shop. They teach exercise classes and serve on resident council committees. Our retired nurses group is currently helping find volunteers to visit residents who are rarely receiving visitors. This has been working out quite well, actually, as both the residents and the volunteers are telling me how much they enjoy these visits. Here at Morning Star Living, the month of December is an especially busy time for our volunteers. Each year, Morning Star Living offers more than 30 special events, concerts, and activities during December. It requires nearly 200 volunteers to help our residents with tree decorating, assist with parties, provide transportation to the nearly nightly and several daytime Christmas concerts. Everyone gets to share in the joy of the holiday season at Morning Star Living because of the large number and the dedication of our volunteers participating. So there are endless possibilities for volunteering at Morning Star Living, and as it turns out, there's lots of benefits from volunteering. Benefits for both this organization and the volunteers. Our organization benefits by being able to offer many activities that would not happen without volunteers. There are benefits of volunteering for the volunteer as well. Our Executive Director, Sue Capabianco, shared some of those benefits at the volunteer luncheon last week, so you may have heard some of this. And I think that they're important, so I'm going to share them again with you today. Through volunteering, you can make new friends, develop new skills, gain a new sense of purpose, share your talents and skills, walking, lifting, and movement, and boost your health by lowering your blood pressure. Volunteering strengthens your community, as we talked about in the community events. It improves self-esteem, and it builds social skills. So I'll end this with, since we've just established that volunteering is really good for you, those of you who are not yet volunteers, we would love to have you join our wonderful family of volunteers here at Morning Star Living. So please feel free to give me a call or stop by the office in the Cooper Center so that we can chat. I'm certain that we can find something that you would love to do. Thank you for listening.
Kara, come on up.
Hello, everybody.
Did you talk?
Sure. Welcome. I think I know most of you, but if I don't, I'm Kara Hillenbrand. I'm the Quality and Compliance Officer for Morningstar. And I just wanted to briefly mention that we're going to be doing a resident satisfaction survey. So the survey has been distributed. If you live at Heritage Village, it's come through your email. So you should have received a link. If you need another one sent, let me know. And if you live here at Morningstar Moravian Hall Square campus, it would have been in your mailbox. So if you have a hard copy, you can turn them in at the wellness office with Michelle and Joan and everybody. Stop in, say hi, turn in your form. And those of you at Heritage Village, just click the submit button on the survey and it'll come back. I want to thank you if you've completed the survey. As of yesterday afternoon, I had over 60 surveys from Heritage Village, so that is great. And I have not counted the ones from here. So if you have any questions, any problems, or need any help filling out your surveys, on the cover letter is my phone number or my email. Let me know. We'll be glad to help you and assist you in any way, or you can stop down at the wellness office, and Michelle and Joan and Anne-Marie are happy to also help. Does anybody have any questions? So we will give you a brief update about the results after we have received all the surveys back, tallied them up, and gone through all of them. So look forward to that at an upcoming town hall. Thank you.
Thank you, Kara. Next up, we have our medical director, Dr. Stephanie Rabenald. Welcome.
I don't have a PowerPoint. I guess I could stand in front of the podium. So, hi everyone. My name is Dr. Stephanie Rabinold. Nice to see those of you that we know, and we're very much looking forward to getting to know those that we're, wanting to become more familiar with. I'll start by giving a little bit of background about myself and my team, discuss our primary care services here at Moravian Hall Square, and then end with a discussion of some community engagement that we'd like to kind of initiate or reinitiate after the prolonged COVID hiatus with our team. So a little bit about myself. I graduated from medical school, Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine, and completed my training in internal medicine and geriatrics fellowship through St. Luke's Hospital. I am board certified in both geriatrics and internal medicine. Two other members of my team who unfortunately couldn't be here today, but again are looking forward to being in some of our future community events. Annette Frederick, she's a nurse practitioner. Many of you know her. She has been here even before me. And then a new member to our team and our senior care team, Mariel Nyango, who is a nurse practitioner as well. We're part of St. Luke's Senior Care, so we specialize in primary care and care of adults who are 65 and older. I've had the role of, well, I guess I have two hats here at Moravian Hall Square, medical director since fall of 2021, a brief or prolonged hiatus when my daughter was born, but I've been here more consistently about 3 years now, since May of 2022. And then I also serve as primary care for a number of our independent living residents from both Heritage Village and here in the apartments, and then primary care physician for the majority of our personal care residents. And then for those who are in our healthcare center, either long-term or for short stays, we serve as your primary care team while you're there as well. So a little bit about our primary care services and kind of why to choose our team. I'll give us a little plug while I have a couple minutes of your time. I really appreciate that this is a more specialized setting. We get more time to spend with all of you. I'm going to start with that because I think that's a really nice thing that we're allowed to do, because recognizing that fortunately or unfortunately, as we get older, we need more time to discuss things. There's more things, to review, things to discuss with family members during appointments, and we have at least 30 minutes for all of our primary care patients, which I think is so important, so we can go over all the important stuff that we need to. Our team, being specialized in 65 and older, certainly gives us a little extra expertise in reviewing medications, chronic conditions, having those discussions with goals of care. How aggressive do we want to be? What are your quality and life goals that we look at as, instead of just your blood pressure is good today, it's ready, time to go, we'll see you in 6 months. So we really try to provide personalized care for all of you and to have that extra time to spend with you. Excuse me. As our practice grows here, we hope to continue to be able to expand our office hours. Right now we have a full day on Tuesday and a whole full day on Friday, but certainly we're available in between if something acute would come up. But ultimately our goals are to continue to grow that availability so that we're here. My ultimate goal is to have someone, at least 4 or 5 days a week. That's the goal, so I hope we can get there. And certainly community engagement, so that's what I wanted to end here with. We would really like to start to be able to participate in some events with you, formal or informal. I know I did a few talks last fall or the fall before up at the Cooper Center, so it was nice to get to know some of you with that. But just looking to kind of do something regularly with you all, maybe send out a survey for some topics you'd be interested in learning about, whether it be medications, certain medical conditions, and then just having 10, 15 minutes to discuss that topic and then have conversations back and forth. So kind of a lot of information. If any of you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those, and we look forward to getting to know all of you even more. So thank you. Thank you.
So thank you to Dr. Rabinold for introducing herself, and I just have a few things to add to that. First, I just want to say what a pleasure it is to work with her and her team. And I cannot tell you the value of communication and availability. Sometimes in the system of things, if I need to get a question answered or get some kind of an order from a doctor out in the community, it takes me several days sometimes to get the message through, to receive the answer. And I feel like Dr. Rabinold and Annette and Muriel are so available and the quick with their responses, and it's not beneath me to just get out of my seat and go find them and get the answer and get some immediate action. There's never been a time where somebody was in need that was one of her patients that I didn't get a timely appointment if there was something. So even if the office looks dark, I tell people rest assured they are quickly and responsive to us at any time. So I love our relationship, and I just want to say that how invaluable that is. The second thing is starting up the coffee and conversations again. I keep an eye out. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do it, if I'm going to have a sign up at the wellness office or do a survey, but we would like to everybody's input on what topics they think they would like to hear. So look forward to that coming up anytime soon. Okay. Thanks, Dr. Ravenald. Yeah, I got. Oh, you want to do that before the question? Okay. Is Molly here? Molly, you wanted to talk about the Rockathon real quick, and then we'll get into the questions and answers.
Excellent. So guess what's coming up on June 19th? No. The Rockathon. So looking forward to our giant porch party that we have here at Moravian Hall Square. Your team captains at Heritage Village are Jane Albert and Linda McMeekin. And here at Morningstar Living in the Independent area, it's Peg Ferrero and John Tersha. Go ahead. Wave your hands in the air, captains. Woohoo! So, don't miss out. This is the best party going on. So, be part of Rockathon. Help us out with all our wonderful dementia programs, both here at this campus and our outreach into the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Molly. Don't be square, sit in a chair. I saw that. I thought that was really cute. Okay, questions and answers. So number one here, I'm going to start with a couple that I can answer, and then we'll pass it on to whoever's expert in the area of the question. Can some unscheduled transportation, including weekends, be made available for residents to go back and forth between Heritage Village and Moravian Hall Square? We do have daily availability for to schedule transportation with Mary. Just give her a ring at 1008, Monday through Friday, 9 to 2, free of charge. There are drivers available to bring people back and forth between Heritage Village. And yes, we do ask for a day's notice. So just give Mary a call and get it set up. And if it's ahead of time and you want to do 3 days next week, feel free to do that. Okay. Number 2. Why have town hall meetings changed from every 2 to 3, from 2 months to every 3 months? That was something that we decided when we combined the town halls. They were at different intervals, and we thought every 3 months was a good compromise in between. We look for concise information, hopefully interesting information, and keep the agenda robust. I think we've done a good job about that. We've been trying to keep it to an hour and 15 minutes at the most, and I think we've been successful at that, so we're happy with the interval. The reason that the meeting was changed this month was because it conflicted with the Unitas board meeting, and we wanted leadership to be here. We think that that's important, so that was a one-time thing, we hope, and we thought it was with good reason. And of course, that's easy. That's an easy request. I can publish next year's schedule. I have a note on my calendar for December to publish next year's schedule all at one time. So calendar-related questions, there was a common theme, so I kind of condensed a couple questions into one. The inconsistencies between the weekly wrap and the 3-month calendar and the app, we found sometimes it seemed like the inconsistencies were mostly times, starting times. So we dug in, we just keep digging deeper to try to get these things fixed. And I think I found 2 areas that there's room for improvement. One is that the recurring events, that's the portion of the 3-month calendar, if you all know what I'm referring to, we were trying to take that information and transcribe it onto the weekly wrap, which I think was more room for error. So we're no longer going to bring that over to the page on the weekly wrap that says RL happenings for the week. It's kind of a quick glance summary. We're only going to keep the one-time events on there. We're not going to put recurring on there. So we think that might help reduce error there. And also, we realized that the calendar that we were reserving rooms on could potentially have been causing a problem with start times, because like if I'm going to reserve Courts Hall for Town Hall starting at 1:30, I'm going to reserve it from 12:30 to 5. So we think that that might be a source of some error, and we're going to work on eliminating that. And we do have to keep in mind there's always going to be error. We're human, things happen, and if it's the start time, it could be a lot worse. I think things have really gotten a lot better. And have we asked for feedback on the new calendar? So believe it or not, next month will be 6 months already. We'll be through the first 2 quarters. So we think that that would be a good time to put out a survey. And it's up to the majority. It's no different for us. We're going to schedule the 3 months, but if you want us to publish it 1 month at a time, if that's better for you, we're going to take a quick survey, and whatever the majority says will be the case. There was some question on the size, and I just want to address that real quickly because we need to worry about the font size and being able to read the calendar blocks. And we think that the best solution to that has been taking out the recurring events, and that allows us to have a larger font in the boxes. So we think that that's something that will not change. We're happy with that. And the question came to us that there were no flowers in the Rosen room or the chapel for Easter. That's an easy fix. We'll make sure that that happens next year. And I think Michael already answered this question regarding the pool. I don't think we need to get into that again. You can jump in tomorrow. And then Sue has the next set of questions that she's going to take over.
Okay, so the question is the situation for getting a room in healthcare, particularly private rooms or room in Laurel neighborhood, seems quite backlogged. That's absolutely true, but that has always been the case. And the reason why private rooms and people on waiting lists for private rooms is the case is because we don't have enough private rooms. That is actually the focus of one of our 5 marathon goals that we call harmonizing the relationship between healthcare or nursing care and residential living. The goal is to actually create more private rooms. So this situation hasn't been any different for years. It's exasperated by the fact that we are taking healthcare accommodations offline for a week for each phase of the Bethany House construction. But the other thing that we're doing, so we don't prevent our own residents from getting an accommodation when they need it, is we've stopped admitting non-resident short-term rehab patients. And we're doing that because we want to make sure we have an accommodation for any resident who may need one when they need it. So just again, I'm going to point to the Heritage, the publication that came out recently, read the 2 pages that discuss the marathon goals, because that is a primary focus of ours, creating more private accommodations. So we have a task force. In fact, Chris Hunt is heading up the task force that's working on that right now and looking at ways to increase the number of memory care accommodations we have, increase the number of private nursing care accommodations, and looking for ways to replace the revenue that we are accustomed to as an organization of generating from semi-private rooms. So that's the big piece of the puzzle that we are trying to figure out. But we are getting to it. We're going to start to gradually add more private rooms, and we are hoping to start that this year. Okay. About the staffing levels. Okay, so staffing levels in the nursing home are still above the state requirement staffing levels. I think probably when you came in through the sales process, we boasted about how we overstaff the Pennsylvania required ratio of caregivers to residents, and that is still the case. We measure it a little differently now, according to Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, on what we call HPPD, which is hours per patient per day, but we are still running higher than most organizations, or probably all of the organizations in the Lehigh Valley, and we're certainly running higher than what the government requires us to be at. The real issue with staffing is this. We have a scheduler who prepares a schedule of all of the staff that we need 24/7. We are, let's say, on the second shift, and we get a call out from one of the members of our team who isn't going to show up. Now what happens is we either have to ask one of our team members who has already worked their full shift to stay over to cover for that person, or we have to call agency staffing. So when you're dealt with this at the last minute, when somebody isn't going to show up, but they wait till it's almost time for their shift to start to call off, there isn't a lot of time to prepare. So I know there was a comment about staff who are, seem run down, exhausted. There's no doubt that that's the case when we're asking them to stay over their shift to make up for somebody who doesn't show up. Next question. Do you have oh, sorry. Okay, so this question talks about, I have a life care plan. I'm meeting with new residents who have the fee-for-service plan. Many say they're glad they're here because they can be taken care of if they run out of money. I know that everyone who moves in has to prove they have enough money to live here, but how do you monitor it after that? What about the couple who buys a house for their daughter, or a woman who buys cars for each of her grandchildren? When their funds are depleted, are they eligible to benefit from the Good Samaritan Fund? The answer to that question, I would hope everybody knows, is no. Because we have a financial assistance policy that is part of your residential living guide, and we also give it out to you again separately when you come into residency. So you have to qualify for funds from the Good Samaritan Fund. And if you have exhausted your assets by divesting yourself of your assets, by buying a child a home or cars or whatever, then you have made yourself ineligible for the Good Samaritan Fund. So that's the answer to the question. But I also want to mention that just because somebody has a life care plan, we think life care is obviously the best plan. Nobody else even offers a life care plan like we do, because it is a way for you to actually preserve and protect your assets. But it doesn't really matter. It doesn't make a difference whether you have fee-for-service or life care. You could outlive your assets. In fact, a number of residents over the years that had life care plans are using Good Samaritan funds. So it's not a factor of fee-for-service or life care. I just wanted to explain that to everyone. I'm going to turn this over to Chris.
Thank you, Sue. Well, the question interesting is it's a good segue actually from the question prior. So the question is, in the disclosure statement, we report benevolent care of 417,000. Can the assets for benevolent care reported on page 21 sustain the level of support in future years? So I guess just 2 quick points on that. My answer would be it depends. Okay, so that 417,000, for those of you who looked at that number, that's actually the total Unitas number. So that 417 is a combination of Moravian Manor and Morningstar Senior Living. So at Morningstar Senior Living, that number was about 143,000. So the short answer is the reason I say it depends on that we do a good job, and this is a segue from Sue's question. One, have we done a good job underwriting as you're coming in? Everybody's had their finances checked, and we have a pretty sophisticated process to make sure that, hey, people can run out of money, but that probability is low. So there's 2 pieces to this. One is, obviously, we make sure the probability is within our tolerance range. That helps keep the benevolent assistance down, but does keep it available for you if you do run out of money. So I would say for this year, right now, the releases we have released from our endowment funds. They don't cover, our cost of benevolent care that we're talking about there completely, but they come pretty close. In the Manor side, they have a little bit more in their funds, and it covers it 100%. Now, the caveat is obviously what Sue talked about. We can't really control what you do with your money once you move in here, okay? So what we expect is that assuming, you flow through your money like we expect, we should be able to absorb a modest amount of benevolent care. Now, the one thing that's not in that number as well is people who run out of money and end up on medical assistance in the nursing home. We sort of look at that as charitable assistance. Last year for Unitas in total, that lost revenue, if you want to call it, was almost $3 million. So do we have enough money in our benevolent funds to cover that? No, we don't. That 417 that you see is just people that live in personal care or independent living that can't pay the full amount to be there. So when you sort of factor in the loss on folks that convert to medical assistance, we certainly could use more money in our endowments to help offset that a little bit more. So I hope that's okay, but that's why my answer is it depends. So the short answer is we can always use your generosity to help build those funds to help support people who do run out of money, because everybody, I'm sure is good stewards of their own fund. And I can tell you, after looking at this, for 16 years and seeing people flow in and out of benevolent care, it is truly people that have just run out of money. I don't think I've ever run into a situation where somebody said, oh, well, I'm sorry, I bought a mega mansion for my daughter, I don't have enough money to pay. Typically it's people that, they've moved in when they're 78, 80, and now you're 104. You know what I mean? And your finances just can't stretch that long. So, we have manageable amounts of benevolent care that for the most part we can kind of cover. But it is incumbent upon us to kind of do that diligence in our underwriting to make sure that we can continue to sustain that if it happens. So I hope that answers the question. Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay, then the second question is, a large part of the operating income in 2024 resulted from entrance fees. Once phase 6 is completed, what percentage of income in plans for subsequent years is based on resales of cottages? How many resales are budgeted? Can we expect campuses to be expanded to generate even more entrance fee income? Okay, so there's 2 things here. So the entrance fee revenue that you see in the financial statements is not cash. So I'll make the distinction. So when all of you moved in, you paid an entrance fee, right? and you may have paid that entrance fee 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Well, we have to recognize that as revenue over your lifetime, okay? So that those entrance fee dollars that you see coming in, we recognize as revenue, but it's not cash. Just like depreciation is an expense, but it's not cash going out the door, okay? So what we tend to look at, and you could see it in your disclosure statement, is what's our net resident revenue? And that's what Sue had showed you earlier through April. So our net resident revenue, if you again, ignore that non-cash income, ignore our investment income and contributions, and then you just look at our core operating expenses. So what does it cost to provide all the care and services and programs and everything? That's sort of our cash equivalent earnings. So we don't so much focus on how much revenue did we recognize from those entrance fees. We focus on that net resident revenue. For anybody who's financially inclined and you like to read a lot of financial statements, that would be our version of what's called EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, and depreciation. So it's kind of our core cash earnings. So last year, if you look in the disclosure statement, you'll see that number. It was about $2 million, and then we had a little over $5 million in entrance fees. So the way the economics work of what we do is the net money that we earn throughout the year, that would be all the daily rates and the monthly fees less those expenses, plus the entrance fees we get on resales. So the model that we run, and every life plan community runs this way, is you expect a flow of entrance fees every year. That helps your cash come in. Actuarially, in terms of turnover, once the communities mature, we see that here at Morningstar, and we're seeing that more at Heritage Village. You can expect at least 10% of your units to turn over. So, we'd be looking at turning over 23, 25 units a year that you're reselling to get entrance fees. So some years that could be more, some years that can be less. But the short answer is we rely on a level of entrance fees every year, okay? So then the next logical question would be is what happens if you don't get those? Well, in some ways, we like to balance out the cash we get from operations so that we're not too heavy on one or the other, because entrance fees only come in when people move in. Second is we have a large amount of unrestricted investments on our balance sheet. So that cash can help us get through, call it a lean time, okay? And my simplest example of that is COVID. COVID was that example, right? The community shut down, we couldn't take outside admissions, our apartments opened up, people moved. Well, the cash that you have on your balance sheet kind of helps get you through those periods. So, so at the end of the day, that's sort of where the model works. We do expect entrance fees every year, and we would probably expect about 10% of the units to be turned over and resold every year. Last question, can we expect campuses to be expanded and generate more entrance fee income? That's contingent on a handful of things. One, space. So at Heritage Village, we've pretty much built out all the space we have. Could there be opportunity for land and things to expand on up there? There might be, but for now, we've pretty much built out the tracks we've owned. Here on this campus, we've pretty much built out the whole campus here. We own some properties on, Green Street, and we always look to buy other properties. So if we had the right space in the right location, maybe it wouldn't be in proximity here, but in another location, we could certainly expand that depending on the product, depending on the audience we're trying to address. So we're always looking to grow and expand our mission. And if that opportunity is right and we can finance it right, then we would do it. Okay, here you go, Matt.
I wouldn't want your job. So the question is, if we were to suffer catastrophic, it's a hard word for me, catastrophic damage to the MHS apartments in a fire, making them uninhabitable, what would the plan be while residents were displaced? So rest assured, we have a relationship with the Emergency Management Bureau of Nazareth coordinator. So they help with us assisting if we have an emergency here in the borough. We also have connections with the Northampton County, which is right outside of Graysdale there. They have an emergency coordinator there as well that we have utilized in the past when we have any type of an emergency. Depending on what the emergency is, the decision to evacuate would be based off of their recommendations. So with their recommendations, depending on if we have to evacuate or if we have to shelter in place, we would go with their decision. And we have what they call a mutual understanding of agreements with other retirement communities throughout the Lehigh Valley as well as in Lancaster County. So if we had an instance that we had some type of emergency here and it impacted the whole Lehigh Valley, we have connections in Lancaster County that if we need to utilize resident beds or accommodations there. We also have agreements with hotels and local schools and such that if we can utilize their spaces as well in case of an emergency. But we have direct contact with those coordinators to help assist in what is the best for the residents. The other thing that we do is we would develop a command center at the front desk and field any communications from there, and then decide how we are going to communicate to the residents to decide what the next steps were. So we have a comprehensive plan, and we have an emergency preparedness committee that meets on a as-needed basis that develops policies and procedures to ensure that we keep everybody safe that is required as well for Department of Health regulations. So I hope this answers the question. And if you'd like to see our manual, it's about 500 pages. No lie. We have everything covered and then if it's not, and it's something we have to address, we take that. For example, COVID, we didn't have a plan in place for that, but we then after that had a committee that got together and put all the information that we did during that process and what we learned and developed it into a protocol that if we ever went through any type of pandemic in the future, we already had a plan in place. So that's one example.
I just wanted to add to Matt. Of course, we have property insurance on all of the properties, and within that property insurance is something called business continuity insurance. So to the extent that there would be a catastrophe, it not only helps rebuild the buildings, but it replaces lost cash flow and revenue as a result of, let's just say, part of the building being uninhabited or unusable.
Very good.
Okay, thank you guys. There's two questions that were both related to culinary. Gareth is going to speak to them.
Good afternoon, everyone. So one of the questions being asked was about meal options available to residents during the Lent season, when some residents are refraining from eating meat. Essentially, we are aware every year that at the period of Lent is an opportunity for some residents to abstain or refrain from eating meat. And I did do some research on the last period, which obviously ended on Easter Sunday. And during that 40-day period, we had about 28 selections on the menu, which were either non-meat or fish. I think, to be honest, there's a lot of different expectation when it comes to Lent. I think some of it is cultural, some of it is generational. I did have some conversations with other people about how they celebrated the period, and had conversations about pasta parties, making pierogies, eating a lot of scrambled eggs. So I know there are diverse ways that people celebrate the holiday or the period. So we are aware of that. I think, we did make a best effort to provide fish entrees and non-meat entrees. I think if I can sort of pass the conversations that I had during that period, on Ash Wednesday, we did not have a fish entree. And I think some people were expecting that. So I think if I can sort of boil it down to it, I think some people were a little upset that we didn't have it. So that's certainly something we can rectify for next time. I mean, we had pasta, we even had pierogies on that day. But again, if you're expecting fish and you don't get it, then you might be upset by that. And we understand that. So that's something that we can easily rectify for next year. Okay, yes. So the question about the calendars, I'm very accustomed to being able to say, yeah, sure, we can fix this very quickly. But in this case, what happens is that when we have a menu cycle, it is developed using some pretty sophisticated software, which we then use to build our menus, to print our menus. It does a lot of things for us. It organizes our production system. It provides us with recipes. So it's a very large software system that we use. The one we use is actually called Meal Suite. And that part of the way that software is built is that they run menus from Monday through Sunday. I don't know why they do it, but it's something that is built into the system and used across the board in our company. So at this point, we're not really able to change that. We've asked about doing that, and we were told it would be very complicated to do that. So, however, I can say that we are in the process of looking at some other software systems for our meal production. So there's a possibility in the future that might change. So thank you.
Okay, so just one last request that came through as a question was regarding our Unitas organizational chart. So we've created a chart and have them printed off. They're up here on the table, available to everyone on your way out. And also don't forget there are some questions that come through that are specific to Moravian Hall Square, and we answer them in writing. And there's other questions that are specific to Heritage Village, and we also have them answered in writing. So on your way out, if you would feel free to pick up the answers that pertain to what campus you live on, and also feel free to pick up an organizational chart. So that brings us to an end, and you've got, I believe, a happy hour waiting for you outside. Thank you, everyone, for coming on this rainy day.